On the other hand, you've got in the end to be for the rule of law. If you're conservative, you have to be, even if the law is unjust.
Whoa, did Tucker Carlson say what I think he just said? Let me get that again.
On the other hand, you've got in the end to be for the rule of law. If you're conservative, you have to be, even if the law is unjust. We have all these mechanisms for changing it. I don't mean to sound like Schoolhouse Rock, but that's completely real.
Hate to sound like Schoolhouse Rock. Man, what Schoolhouse Rock were you watching? I think you might want to set aside a Saturday morning, pour you a long bowl of Captain Crunch and watch those again.
I think what's happening. Propaganda.
I dig Tucker Carlson, and no matter how conservative any of us claim to be, we're not perfect, and we're going to say things that warrant question. Like if a conservative says, as conservatives, you have to be for the rule of law, even if the laws are unjust. A red flag for Carlson should have been when the liberal status-minded Juan Williams is nodding in agreement with his statement. Tucker, as Republicans, we totally appreciate the rule of law, but to conserve this republic, we consent to be governed with good law, not unjust laws. If we're to abide by unjust laws, we wouldn't have the First Amendment. We have the right to question our government. We have the right to question unjust laws. Say, for instance, laws that protected people who wanted to keep slavery legal. That's unjust law that subtracted freedom from some and spread the decay of freedom to others. It had to be stopped. So to conserve our republic, unjust law had to be challenged, ultimately with blood and fire. If we were supposed to abide by unjust laws, we wouldn't have a Second Amendment. That amendment is there to deter the oppression of an unjust law-imposing government. Our founding fathers rebelled against the crown because of unjust laws. To conserve freedom in our republic, it takes rebelling against those who take liberties with their office to impose bad law. And understandably, people are getting fed up with government overreach. This stuff is coming to a head. But I gotta admit that for myself, I'm not quick to say, yeah, let's strap on our guns and face off the feds over a guy who's letting his cattle graze on public land. Maybe I'm missing something. It sounds like Bundy is saying he and his forefathers had owned the land. But if that's the case, why would they have to pay grazing fees on land that they owned? But whatever. I guess his taxes help pay for that land too. So if he wants to make use of it to provide a product that people need, what's the big deal? Then again, just because our taxes help to pay for things doesn't mean I could show up with an extension cord and plug into a socket at a public park and use all the juice I want to power my house. Even though it seems like it's okay for Harry Reid and his son Rory to use land to plug into the solar industry, and somehow it's not a problem for the feds to set the turtles aside for the accommodation of Harry Reid's interest. And if the land is really about protecting the turtle from mankind, why would the government let Bundy and his cattle intrude upon the turtles for a fee? Does that fee give the turtles a magic protective shield or something that somehow makes them safer than if Bundy hadn't paid the fees? That's like saying drugs will be magically less addictive if they were legal. Anyway, I don't think it's right for the federal government to come into a state and give animals precedent over a person's God-given right to pursue happiness. Ranching is this guy's livelihood, and the federal government has used turtles to impede his business. Bundy provides a product that people need. The turtles aren't. And the feds have shown that they can relocate the animals. And when it comes to environmentalists and their windmills and solar farms, the animals can just suck it up. And as much as liberals claim to hate crony capitalism so much, they fail to see that the environmental industry is the very face of crony capitalism. While you liberals were talking about separation of church and state, you overlooked the separation of corporation and state, and they've joined together to become a big green monster. But y'all, I don't really know what's up with Bundy. And as far as I can see, his cattle was grazing on publicly owned land. And I don't understand why at some point they didn't get a receipt for the land. I mean, instead of paying grazing fees, why not just take that money, cruise on down the county or wherever and say, sup, I want to buy some of this land. You can't really talk about owning something because your family lived there for many years without a receipt. It didn't work for the natives. It ain't gonna work for you. It didn't work for the natives when they were taking land from each other, by the way. If you're gonna say that you have the rights to what the land yields, I would say that you need to have a deed that backs that up. If you would have had a deed, I don't think the federal government would have been able to come into your territory and tell you, we're claiming your land in the name of the turtle. I don't even think eminent domain would allow them to do that. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I'm seeing. I'm Alfonso Rachel with Zonation, and how about we have some real fun and really tick the animal rights activists and environmentalists off and march those cows down to those solar farms and grill us some steaks and some turtle bacon on those solar panels they got out there. Pour you a long bowl of Captain Crunch and watch those again.